patience, and now here is Jennifer Maurer.
Shannon. So I think we're doing good now. So I'm first going to start with just giving you an overview of where to find MiSSG. So you'll go to right here, michigan.gov/MiSSG. And here you'll notice three different buttons. There's the student portal, the high school counselor portal, and then the college administrator portal. For you, you're going to go ahead and click on the college administrator portal to begin your login. In order for you to get access to MiSSG, the financial aid director must complete and sign the College Security Access form. This form can be found on our website at that previous page mentioned, the michigan.gov/MiSSG. And you're going to look for the name of the form embedded within the paragraph underneath the College Administrator Portal button. Just please note, to maintain your MiSSG access, your aid director must submit a new form each academic year. And this is what the form looks like. The form can be completed electronically, but must be saved before printing, faxing, or emailing. If you don't save the form will come through blank on our end, and we've had that happen a few times. The completed form does need to be sent to our office either by fax or email. Our fax number and our email address are listed on the bottom of the form, but as you already know, is 517-241-5835, or email us at our mystudentaid@michigan.gov. So if a MiSSG user is no longer employed with your office, please make sure that you guys are emailing our office in order for us to deactivate the account. If you'd like to add a new employee or make any changes to the access level of a current user, please just make sure that you complete, sign, and submit an updated college security access form. So once you click on that blue button, you're going to be taken to the login screen right here. And so here you'll enter the username that was assigned to you that you received in the Welcome to MiSSG email. So often we get inquiries about accounts being locked, and so here is just a list of common reasons why your account may have locked. You may have entered an incorrect temporary password when you initially logged in. Also, there's a registration code process to register your computer, and you may have entered the incorrect registration code, not using Internet Explorer 7 or greater, or there's multiple browsers are open. So those are a list of common reasons why an account would be locked. To have your account unlocked, you just simply need to email the mystudentaid@michigan.gov, or you can contact our office and we can unlock that for you. As Shannon mentioned, today's webinar will focus on certification and reimbursement processes. However, since we know that you work closely with your high school counselors, I just briefly wanted to share with you an overview of the high school counselor portal and, of course, the student portal, too. So we'll go ahead and get started right now with the high school counselor portal. So again, high school counselors will go to the same initial page that you'll go to log in, and they'll just click on their tab. Once you log in, this is their menu option. So this is what they have available to them. They'll be able to view their ACT, SAT records for their students, their school profile, FAFSA completion data, TIP eligibility information, and then there is a roster available to them indicating who of their students meet the merit portion to qualify for the Michigan Competitive Scholarship. So diving into it a little bit more, once a counselor selects the ACT, SAT search box, what it'll do is it'll display all of their students' current class, so for right now, class of 2017 and greater, who have an SAT on file. And for each time a student takes a test, it's going to display the student's score. What's nice about this page, too, is it'll show whether or not we have a Social Security number on file for that student or not. for their SAT record. What's especially important about this is in order for us to match the SAT record to the FAFSA record to determine MCS eligibility, we do have to have a Social Security number on file for that. So the council has that information readily available as to whether or not we have that. And then just as a reminder, too, for a student to meet the merit portion of the MCS for class of 2017 and greater, the student must score a 1200 on their SAT. The high school counselor can click on each student record and update different information within the SAT record. Most importantly, they can update the student's Social Security number. If they do need to make a name correction for the spelling of the student's name, sometimes the names do come through a little bit different, especially if there's a hyphenated name. So they can certainly update that. They can also update the high school grad year on that SAT record. So just going down the tab, high school counselors do have the ability to update their school profile just as you as a user would be able to as well. And they update their contact information in this tab. A FAFSA completion tab is a popular screen for counselors. Here they can see a lot of the information, including whether or not we have the Social Security number on file, if we have a FAFSA on file, and then it'll also bring over the SAT score, the highest SAT score for the student. So what's really nice about this is they can select the graduation year, so right up top right here, and then they can also export this information into Excel. Our newest feature for counselors includes TIP eligibility information for students grades 9 through 12. This is a wonderful tool that will assist counselors with their outreach efforts. So select that tab. It's going to display all of their TIP students who and what their TIP eligibility status is, whether or not we have an app complete or incomplete. Counselors may find that their students that they suspect are TIP eligible are not displaying on their list. This could be a result of many different reasons, but mostly because the student isn't assigned to their high school. So we have added a feature where a counselor can look up a TIP student by selecting this tab right down here, look up TIP student. Once they do that, they can enter in the full Social Security number and the date of birth and look up that particular student, determine the eligibility of their TIP. Just a quick overview of the high school counselor portal. There are some security documents that they do also need to turn in, and those forms are embedded within the paragraph underneath the high school counselor portal tab. So now I just want to show you really quickly the student portal. So here's a login screen for students. First-time users will need to click on the link to create an account. And for a student to create an account, they do have to have a current FAFSA on file or have a TIP record. If they go to create an account, they will need to input their Social Security number, and from there they'll be prompted to enter or create a username and then fill in the rest of the fields, so their name, and date of birth, and then their email address. And then what they'll do from here is they'll be able to actually hit create account, and then they'll be prompted back to go to the login screen and enter in their username and log in for the first time. Once they've logged into the portal, at any time they can update their demographic information, their address, phone number, email address. And then here's a snapshot of what their homepage looks like. So it's going to have my programs right here with a drop-down, account management, and then there is a home tab, a contact MiSSG, and then where they can log out. The student selects My Aid Programs. A subcategory of the aid programs will drop down for them to then select and check on their eligibility status for those programs. As a reminder, when students are getting into the student portal, we still only do have MCS, MTG, and TIP implemented into MiSSG. So if a student wants to student selects on one of the 8 programs. For example, here I selected Michigan Competitive Scholarship. It's going to tell me that I'm eligible, and it's going to tell me what that award is. So they have really good information on here for when students do log into their portal. Ineligible for a program, it's going to indicate my application status is ineligible, and it's going to list those reasons. For these reasons here, ineligible institution, and I qualified for the Michigan Competitive Scholarship. A student who is eligible for TIP, what's really nice about this is when they log into the student portal for the first time, a pop-up box will appear letting them know that they qualify for the program, and there's a hyperlink for them to complete the TIP application. So this is what the application looks like on their end. So they'll enter in, again, their demographic information. It's also important that they enter their anticipated graduation date, and then they do click Save. Once they click Save, it's going to tell me that I'm eligible for the tuition incentive program. At any point, I can go back in as a student and update my information as far as my address, my email address. On the student portal, students can transfer their institution. As you know, the first school listed on the FAFSA is the school that we award. So if a student needs to update their school, they can do that within the student portal by hitting the Transfer Institution button. For the top box that you're seeing up there, that is specific to a TIP student who hasn't filed a FAFSA. As you know, TIP does not require a FAFSA, so if for some reason a student hasn't filed, they would go in here and select their institution so that we know who to award. Transfer request looks like the drop-down box of all of the schools and the transfer term. Students can really transfer to and from schools for any semester term in which the school has not yet certified the award. And as I mentioned in that top bar, students can easily contact our office by sending an email, and this is what the email box looks like. So that's all I have. I'll give it back to Shannon.
Jennifer, for that information. Spring certification for the Michigan Competitive Scholarship and Michigan Tuition Grant, as well as request for reimbursement for TIP, open within MiSSG for spring on February 1st. So since that's coming up here, let's review that information and process now with George Gasser.
Let's go right in. So we're going to start off with MCS and MTG. This should be familiar territory for most of you if you've joined us last year for MiSSG. So a question we get a lot is, how do I know who my MCS and MTG awardees are? One place to see all of them. We found that the most efficient way to get that information is to, once you log into MiSSG, go to the report section in your menu, and then the school totals report. That's going to show you all of your students. Then it's going to show all of the terms that are available throughout the academic year, and then what each student got awarded in each term. And then it's also going to provide a total, and export that as a spreadsheet, so if you want to do additional work with that data, you can. And this is going through, like, once you select your parameters, you click Generate the Report. Here's a shot of basically how that data is laid out. You got your name, that's going to get real redundant because that's the only one on there, but it'll have the student's name, their social security number, and the amounts for each one of the terms. It does list all of them, even though your school may not participate or be able to be awarded in certain terms, just summer for MCS, for example, but it is listed. Okay, so this thing, we're going to be talking about the certification process. We're going to take the perspective, I know the schools have software in-house that does a lot of this work for them, them, and then this is not the only way to do it, nor is it necessarily the best way to do it, but this is a way that anyone can do it. So this is what we're going to choose to go with here. So where we're going to start off is for MCS, MTG, it's all the same thing. You're going to go to the certification section of that program's menu. You will select the term that you want to go to. You will click the download roster button. From there, you click on the download file from the next menu, and then it's going to take you to the file request window where you're going to have to wait for the system to process your request. After a while, click the refresh button a few times. Eventually, it'll switch over to say that the file is being executed, and then it'll say that the file has been processed successfully. When that happens, you circle in red there that you click the download icon, and then take you through Internet Explorer's normal download process. You're going to be pulling a text file. You can set that to where location you want. Many people just send it to the desktop. But here's the file that you're actually downloading. This is opened in Notepad to show you exactly what the text is. And then I wrote out the PII information in there. So this is going to follow the file format. So every time you see a comma, that's going to be essentially a new column in a spreadsheet format, or it'll be one of the new fields on the file format that's provided. Open this in Microsoft Excel. I know a lot of people will just click on the file, and if they've got Excel defaulted to open that kind of file, will. Now the problem with doing that is that Excel will, each column has a file format, so it tells it how to display that data, what data means. Most notably, it defaults to general, but fortunately for numbers that start with 0, it'll drop the leading 0. Some of you may have noticed that with either your school code loses the front leading 2 zeros, or if you've got social security numbers that start with 0, all of a sudden instead of a 9-digit number, they become an 8 or sometimes a 7. That's because the file was opened as a general format. Now what you want to actually do is open up Excel first, and then open up the file using Excel. So you'll see on the screenshot here, I've got open section. I have to select all files because it's going to naturally try to find Excel files, but the download roster is actually a text file. And then we're going to open that up, and now your text import wizard is going to begin. Choose delimited because we've got commas that are separating all of our columns for us. Like we need to tell it that commas are what we want to separate by. And then also want to highlight all of the columns that are going to be presented, and then tell it that we want it to be text instead of the defaulted general. That's going to preserve all of our data in the correct way, the way we want to start working with it. This is how it looks once it gets into Excel. Got all of our columns set up nicely, have all of our leading zeros, and we're ready to actually start working with this data. Column A, L, and M, those are for reference. We've had some schools wanting to know that information. You can look on the format to determine what that means for each one of you. They like your check count remaining, grade level, and your EB. But we'll remove those because those are not necessary for uploading the actual certification file. That's just provided to help you work with the data. So as you see in the screenshot, we've cleared that data from the screen. The upload file, we're basically just going to put in the values that we need. Column I is the enrollment type. So we've got full-time, everything defaults to full-time, but if the student was 3/4, half-time, or possibly even not enrolled, we would indicate that there. Column A on the screen is, are we certifying an award? Basically, is the student receiving money, yes or no? That's a good thing about that. To reduce the award, we have to give a reason. If there was no award at all, we also have to give a reason. Your file format, it should walk you through fairly easily. We add all the information to all the students that we want to work with. We're going to save this as a CSV, a comma delimited file. So you're going to go to the Save As function in Excel. You're going to use the type as CSV and save it to wherever you save it to. That some feature may be lost. That's fine. We want to start all the extra stuff, so we just get a text file. So yes. And then we're going to go back into MiSSG. We're going to return to the certification menu. But this time, after selecting our term, we're not going to choose download roster, we're going to choose upload roster. This means we're putting a file back into MiSSG. So a very similar screen methodology going through here, but now we run into the upload certification screen, the second picture there. This is where we'll have a very familiar looking browse menu. We'll click on that, choose the file location, and then click upload. And verify that you did select the correct file, because it's going to show you your computer path up there. We're going to be returned to the file request menu again, and then we can impatiently hit refresh as the system processes. Sometimes it can take a while, especially if everyone's trying to upload files at once, as MiSSG can only do one at a time. Really quickly, but if everyone does it at once, it has to be aligned to it. You're to get a status message. Most of the time, myself included, it'll say the file's been processed, but errors were found. Would you that there was something, we put an incorrect value somewhere, we didn't put enough value somewhere. So what you do is you'll click on the actual status message, and then it's going to show you line by line anywhere there was a problem. So like in this case, it says that the award amount has exceeded the system's calculated. Basically it says we tried to request too much money for what we told them. I assumed that we'd said it was 3/4, but we were still requesting full-time money. That's common. And then lines 10, 11 there, we didn't put a no award reason. So we said, so we'll have to fix these. Sorry, I was going crazy. So I've copied that error message again to this one, and then we're going to compare it directly to the spreadsheet. So on the left is what we uploaded, and on the right is the corrections made to it. So as we can see down in the column I, for Brooke and Kristen, we said we wanted $0 awarded. No, we weren't certifying an award, but we're still telling the computer that they're going there full time. So we need to go not enrolled for that one. The $0 award in the case. Additionally, we requested too much money for Mara on the second line. We said it was 3/4 time, and then Austin below her half time. But we also requested the full amount for a full-time award. So we're going to make these corrections. We're going to go through the normal process again of saving it as a CSV, and then going back up, uploading it again, just like we just did. So we've got through that. We're going to get the files in process, but we're found again. In this case, it's fine. We're getting the one error that we actually want to get. It says the matching payment was found, the status is ready to certify. I know a lot of people ask me about that. Basically what that means is you already certified that, you can't certify it a second time. So that's just fine because the student got their award certified. It's letting you know that it's not going to do it twice for you. And since all of our students there and they're all on that status, this is basically done. The other condition you could get to is you could just say that it was processed successfully and then there are no errors. But this is a more common way to get to the end. Now we're going to transition into talking about tip reimbursements. This is a new feature for this year. We keep it as similar to the MCS and MTG process as we possibly could. Familiar screens make for happier users. There are some differences though. It's going to follow the same basic process as MCS and MTG. It has a different file format, so you can't use the MCS MTG file format. And you're not totals report to look at your students ahead of time. The schools report is going to show you the students that have awards or have reimbursements. It works differently. MCS and MTG awards everyone up front, and you're basically reducing your awardees, letting us know, who's not attending full time and who's not attending at all. Tip the other way around. It starts off awarding no one, and you have to tell us who is attending and then how many credits they're receiving. So if you look at the school totals report up, it's going to be blank before you actually do any reimbursement requests. So we have to use the eligible students report. Those are these students that are going to be able to receive reimbursement. And then you can get the reports menu in MiSSG for eligible students, select your year. Being very familiar. Your download roster for the reimbursements, same process as MCS MTG. You're going to click on the TIP reimbursement request instead of certification, because there is no certification for tuition incentive program. And then you'll select your term. I told you to click on the. Well, let's ignore that arrow that says upload roster and pretend like it points at download roster. That's my error. In the process, you'll select your file, go to the file request menu, and then download it on your computer. This is what it's going to look like after you've imported it the same way that we did the certification file. You see that there's fewer columns here. TIP's much more straightforward as far as the information that MiSSG requires to process your request. Basically, we're going to do the same thing here as we did with our MCS and MTG. We're going to remove our reference files, or ref columns, that are telling us basically how many credits the students can have for Phase 1, both in the year and throughout the program benefits. And then it's also showing how many Phase 2 dollars they have remaining. Mike already knows this, so you don't have to re-upload that. Just remove it. And then, much like MCS and MTG, we're going to add in the information we need for each request. Each line is going to be per student. We're going to tell it when they're eligible for Phase 2, if they're receiving that kind of reimbursement, what phase they're using, and then how much money, how many credits, the fees are. All details in your file format. This is kind of what it looks like when you actually apply it to a spreadsheet. And then we're also going to save it as a comment delimited file, just in the same way that we did MCS MTG. And we're going to go back into the TIP reimbursement request instead of certification, but those are all the same that we've seen before. The one arrow is actually correctly pointing at the right button of upload roster. After selecting term, we'll upload the file button, we'll choose the file location, and then we'll click upload again, and then we'll be taken back to the file request. So we can click the refresh button patiently as we wait for the file to chug along. We have noticed that TIP files take a notable difference longer to process than the MCS and MTG files. So if it is taking a while, please be patient. And then back and check your file for errors, because it'll do the same thing. So on MCS and MTG, the TIP rosters do not reduce in size as the reimbursement requests are made, as in the down rosters. We've had several questions from the fall reimbursements. One of the workflows that people have developed is they take the whole list, they do the reimbursements, and then or certifications, and then as the MCS and MTG numbers dwindle, as students are certified, eventually you're greeted with an empty list, and your task is done. But unfortunately, it's not like this, because like I said, it doesn't award on the front end, and then you're reducing. It awards no one, and you're telling us who to do. So unfortunately, that download roster, because a student could have multiple reimbursements in the same semester, they're always going to be present. That number is never going to shrink. So you need to know which of your students have had a reimbursement request made for them. You're going to go to the reports. Now you can use the school totals report. Just remember before that it doesn't award, but now you have requested reimbursement. You can see who had what and for what. That's all for me.
Well, thanks, George, for the information. We've had some questions come in throughout the webinar, so we're going to review those now. But I encourage you, while we're answering those questions, if you have any questions, to please utilize the Q&A option on the right-hand side of your screen so we can respond. So the first question is, how can I get a copy of the presentation?
The copy of our presentation and a recorded version of the webinar will be available on our website, michigan.gov/MyStudentAid.
Are we able to pull list of students based on high school as a college administrative user to assist high school counselors?
The feature is not available for an aid officer that's only available for a high school user.
Would have the date a student selected my school for their institution for the TIP program. So it's possible for the institutions to have the date that the student selected the school.
I suppose that's possible. I guess I would want to know, did you want that on a report, on the student applications? I guess a few more details. We had talked about possibly adding that to one of the reports. So if that's something that you're very interested in, please reach out to us and we can discuss that further. But that is something that we had looked at, yes. But you not currently see that.
Students need to do anything to get access to the portal. So students, the order for students any student who has a FAFSA or a TIP record can have access to the portal. In terms of transferring an institution, they would only transfer the institution if they're planning on utilizing funds at the institution. It doesn't matter if they're a guest student or not, they would have access to the portal, and then they would just want to indicate the institution that they're going to be utilizing the funds at. That's where they would, that's what indicate on the portal. Okay, response back from the institution that requested that the date that the student selected their institution for the TIP reports, and the institution has indicated, yes, I would like to have the date that TIP was certified added to the eligible student report. We'll take that then to the vendor to let them know that, and we will get back to institutions once we can have that available for you. That's a great suggestion. Thank you for that. Okay, through the other questions here. Constellation of TIP phases and annual credit limits through the MiSSG student portal.
Sorry, can you repeat that one more? I was writing that note for the last one.
Can students view an explanation of TIP phases and annual credit limits through the MiSSG student portal?
Directly within the portal, the fact sheet is available on our website. I could consider a better to explain that. It's good feedback.
Yes, we will take that feedback to add that. So that's another great thing about us doing this webinar series is that we're able to get your guys' feedback regarding the MiSSG system, and so we appreciate that. So that's something we'll take back, and we will further explain the phases within the portal. The question is, if a student is on the school totals report for TIP with an amount for the term, does that mean that the reimbursement request has been accepted by the state and it will be paid?
Those are easy ones.
The next question is, as long as a student has the qualifying score and meets the March 1 deadline for Michigan Competitive Scholarship, will the student still be able to switch to another institution later in the academic year and still receive the award?
As long as they were awarded before the cut date, yes. So, like, say if you were awarded at Michigan State University and then you transferred to Southern Michigan University, that award will follow you. However, if you didn't become eligible for the award until you transferred to Central, that could cause complications, depending on the year that happened. But if the student sees an award at the beginning of the year and they continue to meet all the requirements for that, transferring an institution is not going to make them ineligible or make them lose their award, no.
If a student lists our school as number 1 on the FAFSA, they certified their TIP and do not need to go to the student portal to certify us. Is that correct? Correct. So in order for, we notify the first school that is listed, or if they do not have a FAFSA, they need to go to the student portal to identify their institution. And at this time. Now, the federal government has indicated that they may no longer provide school school closure order to state agencies. Down the road, we may need to come up with something different where we have to have the students go to the portal. But at this time, as long as they list your institution first on the FAFSA, then they do not need to go to the portal to indicate it. They would show up on your listing.
Yeah, and to add to that, if the student's showing up on your reports and is visible to you for a given academic year in MiSSG, then they have indicated either by FAFSA or the student portal or some other method that they are attending your school. So if you can see them, you're probably good.
Do you have the tip letters? No, you do not. So tip letters are no longer needed. This information is within the MiSSG portal, so we do not give the college payment authorization forms to students anymore, and we do not expect you guys to have a copy to keep that, because now all of that information is on MiSSG. Okay, the next question. I have had a lot of students not register with MiSSG, and I'm sending a lot of individual requests to have them added to our school. Is there an easier way to inform students to create a profile so we don't have so many errors when uploading a file? So we are making some plans within the office on sending all students an email once they fill out a FAFSA, capturing that email address from the FAFSA, sending them information regarding the student portal. So we're planning on doing that. However, another thing that institutions could do is that we have a card available, a MiSSG informational card that you could put in your offices. It talks to students about the portal and why they need to create a profile. But I think probably once we get that email generated after a student submits a FAFSA, that at this time is going to be a way that we can reach out to them to let them know that why they need to create a portal account. Let's see here. Is it possible to have students removed from the school's eligible list if school is Phase 1 only and the student has exhausted their Phase 1 eligibility?
That's a question. I'm going to absolutely look at that. No, brought that up. Thank you.
It's possible to add the remaining credits for TIP to the eligible students report. It would help when putting TIP funds on a student's account.
Sorry, I was going fast. I was writing notes. What was that again? Remaining credits for TIP to the eligible students report. Help when putting TIP funds on a student account. Yes, I think that.
Okay, so that's some good feedback. Okay. So again, that was adding the remaining credits for TIP to eligible students report. So we'll take that back to our vendor. Okay, just a couple more of these. I do want to let everyone know that we will post all of the questions and responses when we will send out a message with the recording of this webinar, as well as the questions and responses. So let's see here. Many are stating they did not apply for TIP and have no idea how they even qualified for it. What tell them, or how can we reply to them? So when a student is identified as eligible, we get a listing from the Department of Health and Human Services. We send notification to the student yearly, letting them know. We also provide listings, as Jennifer reviewed, through to the high school counselors. So we do rely on our partnerships with Michigan high school counselors to notify students as well. If they do not know that they are eligible, it's possible that the notification was sent to an address that they no longer lived at, and we have documentation showing that we received that back as an undeliverable. That we can check into that, and we do have an appeal process if they can document that they were never notified. But sometimes students, they did complete the application and they just didn't realize it. So they certified when they were 13 years old and they didn't realize it. So that's a great thing about MiSSG is that now they can see that now. So if they lost their letters that were sent to them before and they certified before when they were younger, they now can see MiSSG. So now we're expecting that more TIP students will be utilizing TIP at your institution. would you say that downloading your roster is a better practice for schools to use instead of using our own setup?
I'm going to go with yes, just because download roster that is downloaded right before you begin the process of working through your reimbursements is going to have the most accurate information. Depending when your own system was last updated, so if you updated October 1st, let's say, but they're not running your reimbursements until like November, much may have changed in that month. You just can't tell. So for the most accurate information, downloading the roster right out of MiSSG is going to be the most accurate way. It's necessary, though, if you have a system that can handle it on your end, just be prepared to deal with any kind of discrepancies that may arise in the changing of the records. To download a roster out of MiSSG, upload it into your system, and then have it do the work for you so you can upload it back into MiSSG. That would be the best.
Students, if the student is eligible for the program, should the student be certifying the school they will be using the funds, or should the school be requesting the student be added to the TIP roster? So when the student completes the certification process, and that can be done online now through the student portal, when they certify it and complete the application, they do identify the college that they're planning on attending. This can become eligible for TIP as early as age 12, so the institution that they're thinking that they're planning on attending may change. So they could identify one institution, and we would put that would be on there. They would want to always update that, so it would be updated through their FAFSA. You can request it. So if you have a student that you know TIP eligible that you've seen through the TIP lookup listing, then showing up in your roster, then you can have them transfer it through the institution, or you can done MiSSG to transfer themselves, or you can request it. And you know, I'm very sorry, I just misspoke. I forgot that we did away with that on the portal. So students no longer, when they're filling out the application, they no longer put it at the institution. So that's as a result of just the FAFSA or what they identify on the portal. So excuse my error there, but they would want to indicate it on the portal. Okay, next question here. Is fixed for the server error message when using the TIP lookup function?
Need to know specifically which one that was. Anytime you get a server error, please take a screenshot of that and then send that to my student aid at MiSSG.gov so we can get on that. I think that one is one where if you use the lookup feature on a student that does not have a current year application within MiSSG, it throws that error. And yes, we do have a fix for that. That should be rolling out shortly.
This again determine if classes are within a student's degree program. So for that, we will be doing random program review samples, where we will take a random sample of students who received funds, and we will request a copy of their transcript along with a copy of their degree outline to make sure that the classes that they were taking were within their degree program. Where's the file format for the TIP reimbursement list?
File for the TIP reimbursement list. You go to the MiSSG menu, and then it'll be in the Help section, and then the links will display and say TIP reimbursement raw file format.
Can load eligible TIP students in a CSV format?
You download eligible students report, and then you export that. You can turn that, get that to Excel, and then save that as a CSV.
Do we load a TIP reimbursement file to update with payments, or can we just create a reimbursement file with our payments and upload it as long as we meet the file format requirements?
I guess I didn't mean exactly. They're talking about the reimbursement amounts.
If the aide administrator who asked that question could provide some clarification. Yes, the reimbursement amount is what they replied with.
Okay, so we gotta do, tip reimbursement file to update, pay out to wages creators. Oh, okay, so the act of downloading a roster is technically not necessary. If you have all the information for the upload roster, you can make that however you wish. You can export that to your system, hand type it, and the download roster is just typical starting point, but it's not actually required. So specifically to your question, if you know all the information and you want to create your own and upload that, as long as it meets the file format, MiSSG is going to accept it. And if it has a problem with it, it's going to start throwing errors. So that should be fine. You follow the file format. Good question.
Okay, if we have any other questions, if you can please utilize the Q&A box. We'll give it a minute.
Nothing else.
All right, well, that concludes today's webinar. Thank you for participating. We appreciate your partnership and support as we work together to help Michigan students make college accessible, affordable, and achievable. Our next webinar within this series will be on April 27th at 10 a.m. Thank you.